We are honored to welcome composer Mason Bates and librettist Gene Scheer. Oh, sorry. I don't have much voice, so I've been sick, so I'll try to speak right now.
Hold it close, yeah.
Yeah. We are honored to welcome the great composer Mason Bates and librettist Gene Scheer for an introduction and what is sure to be an enticing conversation about their upcoming opera adaptation of The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. Our conversations with Mason began many months ago when he contacted Rabbi Klein about collaborating with our fabulous CBST community chorus. For those that were able to come to our June concert, The Sounds of Resistance, we did in fact sing an excerpt of Mason's ethereal and moving composition based on the traditional melody for Anima Amin.
And to give you a little more context of our conversations, Mason and I discussed Hebrew pronunciation, beviat versus bevias, right? The place of Ani Ma'amin in Jewish life today, the roots of the folk melody, and other fascinating and generative topics over the last few months. CBST has a full range of classes and programming during this month, leading up to Rosh Hashanah, focusing on Kavalier and Clay, and it will culminate in us all going to the opera together. So as part of our welcoming Shabbat tonight, we begin with a conversation that we hope will generate much thought and excitement as we move through the month. And for those who have not read the book, this conversation will not ruin your experience. There will be no spoilers here. And of course, try to read the book. It's a rich tapestry of modern fiction. We could go on and on about that, and we will, but not tonight. And we will have a class discussing the book as well.
Tonight, however, we will learn more about Mason and Gene, about opera as an art form, how an opera adaptation comes into being, and perhaps how you musically capture a golem. The opera had its world premiere at Indiana University on November 15th, 2024, and will have its Met premiere in just a few short weeks on September 21st. As you've seen in the e-news, all of these classes and sessions will culminate, as the Cantor just said, in a visit to the Met to share this opera together.
So Mason and Gene, I invite you to join us here on the Bima. Please. Thank you. So we thought we'd start with getting to know you a little more before diving into the opera itself. So can you each tell us a little bit about yourselves, maybe your musical or literary influences, how you would describe your style, and how has it changed, perhaps, over time? That's a lot in one question. Yeah.
Well, I'm a choir boy, former, recovering. And when I was at Juilliard as an undergraduate, I also was studying English at Columbia. And I was going to the Metropolitan Opera thanks to the chorus master who was letting me sneak in. It's a little harder these days. And I was trying to study everything I could at the time to be a good opera composer. And going to the Met Opera at that age, seeing these operas unfold and having no idea what I was seeing, just looking at the titles and almost like you're watching a movie with no idea what's going to happen, was really formidable for me, formative for me. And I guess my musical style has been impacted by many currents. One of the things that you can hear in this piece, there is certainly an impact of the great American symphonic tradition, Bernstein, Copland. I would also include, Gershwin in that. Also, there's a lot of big band in the piece because the show is set in 1940s New York. So my father continues to play tons of big band music on vinyl from people like Artie Shaw. So of course, there's a great, history of Jewish musicians transforming the sound of America. So that's one of many currents in the piece. But Yeah, I've spent some formative years here in New York. And Gene, if anybody happens to have been to the Metropolitan Opera, this dude has written, this is his third opera coming to the Met. So he's the big dog in the room.
Thank you for that. Hello, there we go. Well, thank you for having us. It's delighted to be here. My journey with music started as an opera singer. I was an opera singer wannabe. I went to the Eastman School of Music, which is a wonderful conservatory in Rochester, and I dreamed of singing opera. And I was on that train for many, many years, and until I was studying here in New York in my mid-30s with one of Renee Fleming's former teachers, the great Renee Fleming. And she said I would play my songs at the end of each lesson. And she said to me one day, I came into the lesson and I put my music on the piano, and she said, "You know, Gene, I can make you better, but not that much better." She said, "Keep the $100, write your songs. Things will go better with your songs." And in fact, that's exactly what happened. But it's sort of, there were a lot of influences in my life. First of all, I was a theater kid from the time I was a little kid, and a classical musician and such. And so it just, when I think about the influences that have really had the most resonance for me, they've actually been popular, things that in their time were popular. So I would consider Shakespeare a huge influence, but of course it was a pop culture. I love Dickens. I love Jane Austen. I love things that were that had this sort of the vibrancy of being current at the time. And one of the things that's really been such a joy about working on this piece, of course, for those of you who do know the book, it has a lot of sizzle and that energy of this incredible, of these young Jewish guys who are going to trying to change the world and save the world in their own personal worlds. And it has this feeling of that current in the 1940s and such. And Mason's music is just such a natural fit for this. It has music, I mean, among the great gifts that Mason has is that it has incredible energy. The music has such beauty, but also just an incredible power and energy, and that feeling of people creating something in the moment. And so it was a great joy to work with him on this project and to hear this incredible score played by the best orchestra in the world and one of the best conductors, if not the best conductor in the world, doing it and with this great cast. So we'll talk about the piece, but that's kind of how I sort of found my way into the opera world.
Thank you.
I'd love to know, where did the two of you meet, and how did you begin working together?
Well, we actually met at Santa Fe Opera thousands of years ago. Gene's opera, Cold Mountain, was happening there. And I remember meeting you, and time passed. I had an opera that went there called The Revolution of Steve Jobs that the head of the Met went to see 2017. And Peter Gelb reached out and said, "Nice job. Would you like to do something for us?" And I said, "Let me think about that."
Yeah.
And so I had come across Kavalier and Clay, this incredible, huge epic novel. And I thought, even though it's like this sprawling story, this great American epic, I mean, at its core, it's a simple story of these two Jewish cousins desperately trying to make enough money to get their family out of Europe. And the way they do that is to go into this fledgling world of comic books. So I said, "Peter, this is the idea." And he goes, "Cool. Who's going to be the librettist?" And I said, "Well, I thought maybe we could talk about that. Maybe you could tell me what you think." And he said, "Gene." Gene's the guy. Because Gene, he also did Moby Dick recently. And that's the kind of thing when you first hear about it, you're like, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to happen. But Gene made it happen, made it an incredibly successful opera. So he knows how to take the essence of a giant novel and bring it to life on the stage. So, yeah, and then we just kind of threw this together over like 6 years.
That's right. No, there was tons of back and forth, and it's been a joy to work on it, and a lot of hard work. This is an epic novel. It's sprawling, and it wasn't just a question of sort of jumping right into it. These questions. It wasn't just a question of what to cut. It was a question of how to set it up so that, as I say, music can win the day. I mean, how could we set it up the story so that Mason's music could be the primary, I always say, the marrow of the matter. I mean, I'm a librettist, and I value the language of the opera and what people are singing, but ultimately it's a piece of music. So my task is really to try to figure out a way of crafting a story so that music can be the core of what's delivering the emotional message, the emotional content of the story. And so that's what Mason and I set out to do. And I would say, there's people say in a book, in Michael's gorgeous book, this wonderful novel, there's of course the narrator. There's the narrator's voice. And you say there's not a narrator in the world of opera, but there is. The narrator is the composer. He or she is filling in all the sinew, the stuff that connects everything and that makes you feel things. And that's the task of the librettist, is to set it up. And we set about crafting the story in a way that hopefully will accomplish just that.
Amazing. Amazing. So jumping kind of into the details, connecting to CBST, Congregation Bates and Gene Scheer, the world's largest LGBTQ plus synagogue, the combination of a queer love story, Jewish immigrant story, superhero story, all at once, kind of makes the story perfect for us, right? We should do a whole month about it. So can you expand on how you weave those layers into the score, into the libretto? What will we expect? What can we expect?
What y'all do here is so awesome. And I was talking to, I think, Paul Cremo at the Met, and was talking about, ways to reach out to the community. And he said, you should check out CBST. And so we just cold emailed Rabbi Klein and said, hey, let's talk about this. So, I mean, the immigrant thing is so powerful, what y'all do here. And obviously, the story, in a way, you look at it for 10 seconds, and it's like, okay, it's 1940s, World War II. That won't happen again, right? So all of a sudden, but you spend 12 seconds on it, and you're like, wow, it really resonates with what's happening. And so those two topics are so key. I mean, one is the story of the immigrant changing American culture, which is really the story of America. And so much of the music and art and what we consume has been transformed by specifically Jewish immigrants. And in this story, this guy, Joe Kavalier, comes over from Prague, really escapes using these kind of tricks of escapism that he's learned as a fledgling magician, and gets here, and he has to kind of assimilate or acculturate, however you want to say it, like kind of become an American, and goes into what at that time was like just ink and pulp and like cheap paper, but was the beginning of what we all are living in now, which are the world of superheroes. Whether it be Batman or Iron Man, it's certainly something that captures the American imagination. Why do we love superheroes so much? And I think that's one interesting thing about the American immigrant, and so many of these comic book writers were specifically Jewish, and something about Clark Kent going into a phone booth and being a normal guy who's blending in and becoming a superhero is really meaningful. And then on top of that, just to hit the other topic, yes, we have Joe Kavalier and Rosa Sachs who fall in love. We also have Sam Clay and Tracy Bacon. That's his name. He's a Gentile, and his last name is Bacon. That's Michael Chabon's awesome.
Imagine that.
Yeah, little pieces.
Yeah, they fall in love because when the escapist becomes like a phenomenon in American culture, kind of in this historical fiction of the novel, it's like Superman. It becomes a radio play, and the actor playing the escapist is this dashing Tracy Bacon, and Sam Clay is the writer, and they fall in love. But of course, it's 1940s, and they have to be kind of low key. And so that's interesting in the novel, and it's interesting in opera because you have a love story that has to kind of get teased out, and all these undercurrents that Gene has so masterfully played out in these different scenes where they're talking about one thing, but we know what they're really talking about, and it climaxes. at the top of the Empire State Building in this electrical storm where they have their beautiful kiss. So yeah, those are the two themes that I think are really resonating with the ALS community, among many others.
And the other theme that's woven in through the piece is the grief and how to deal with grief. I mean, this is a Holocaust story, and Joe is, I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, Joe is trying to get his family out of Europe. They've been caught, as the Nazis have taken over Prague. And he's naively thinks he can, if he raises enough money, he can bribe them out or get them out somehow. And of course, his family they all wind up dying, one by one, and we watch this happen. And he leaves Rosa for a long period of hundreds of pages of the book. And he is kind of taciturn about why he leaves her. He's so grief-stricken, the way grief hits people who are dealing with great loss, especially in the Holocaust, of course, but loss of all different kinds. And so getting back to what I was saying before about trying to find a musical way of crafting that, Mason and I talked about creating 3 different worlds of this opera. There's the world of Prague and the Holocaust, the black and white world, which has a musical sound world to it, and it has a visual world that these incredible artists, stage set designers and video designers have crafted. Then there's the world of this, swing 1940s, the energy of these 2 young Jewish guys, creating this world, and the Chrysler Building and swing jazz and such. And then there's the world of the actual art that they create. And the idea was to create 3 different distinct worlds with 3 different looks. And it's the Metropolitan Opera, so let me tell you, it's quite extraordinary what they're able to craft. And then when Joe is struggling to make sense of his life when he's lost everyone, those 3 worlds, visually and musically, crash together. And that's what Mason has done so beautifully. He's created these 3 distinct musical worlds, and I've tried to create 3 different worlds and set it up so that he could do that, and he's done it brilliantly. And then we watch him struggle, and then ultimately, it's when a person is an artist, I think, and people who love art, you start to wonder about what is the purpose of art in a world where such tragedies are taking place. Does it really matter that I do this? Does it really matter that I write this or draw this or compose this? Does it have any real impact in the world? And ultimately, as you'll see, it is art that brings him back. The art that he shares with Rosa. And so we watch him go through all of these struggles as people go through these struggles, but we tried to find a musical way of depicting that. And I think it's quite thrilling.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm wondering if we could hear an excerpt. We have
maybe a minute of the first
audio
file.
This.
So that's The Escapist. That's when Joe and Sam go and create The Escapist, this great Jewish superhero whose deal is that he frees people from the bounds of fascism. So Yeah, that's an interlude. There is singing in the show, and I just want y'all to know there is melody, and there like I've kind of really gotten. This is going to sound really obvious unless you've actually gone to a lot of new opera. There are numbers, there are musical numbers in the show. So this piece does have like searing lyrical melodies, but that one is part of the superhero world.
Nice. Thank you for sharing.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, why do you think this story resonates so much with us today? Which, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but what if you could talk a little bit about that? And when a time when forces of oppression are just becoming stronger and stronger, and it's an amazing thing to have this mounted at this time.
I don't think it's a stretch to say that authoritarianism is on the rise around the world, and how people deal with it as these challenges are presented is something that was confronted then, and alas has been confronted all over the planet right now. And so I think that's clearly there's a connection between this feeling of what do you do when you're dealing with war, when you're dealing with people being forced away from their homes and so forth. And so there's great resonance in terms of the very real but the surface aspect of this story. But beyond that, I think it goes to something I was saying before that sort of reaches beyond that. That's kind of on the surface of it. I really think that the reason why this has great resonance is because Michael's book is so beautifully written and has such incredibly passionately, for me, describes this the idea of what it is to deal with grief and how to struggle with that and hopefully to overcome it. There is so much of the book. It's a sprawling novel, and of course we had to cut things and conflate things and change things to make it work as an opera. But that aspect of Michael's book, I think, is well represented in the opera. How do you deal with the grief of Joe losing his family, and how does Sam deal with the feeling of being closeted in the 1940s because of his sexuality, and how do you deal with that kind of friction that's in one's life? So beyond the sort of surface parallels, I think the reason why I think the book is so beautiful and why hopefully the opera will work and touch you is because it touches something that's in all of our hearts and all of our experiences. Because no one gets out of this alive, this journey, and we're all dealing with loss, and it's part of the deal. And of course, some people deal with it much too soon because of the way the world throws things at them. So how you deal with it is something that is at the core of this story, and I think Michael Chabon just brought it so brilliantly to life. The other thing about this I just want to throw this out there as well, is that the book is really fun to read. It's really a fun, entertaining story about the energy and the creation of people, of these two young guys creating this new thing, and that excitement of Mason and I have had a little touch of it when we're working together, and we come up with an idea and we go, that's it, it's really exciting, and so that there's a sizzle, like I used that word before, but there's a sizzle to the prose, there's a sizzle to Mason's music, and that is what. So it's in addition to why does the book have such resonance? Because I think it touches our hearts, but also because it's a great, fun story to read, even with all of the challenges that it's representing.
I'm glad you said it's fun. I just have to throw that in there. It is a fun story. Just worth noting. Like, if y'all have kids, grandkids, friends that are kids, grandkids. I think this is a show that will be a fun ride. My kids are coming; they're early teenagers. Yes, there's the stuff that Gene was talking about, the real core of the matter. But if you look at some of the posters that are around, it's like a superhero on the poster, and this idea of creating this American mythology, is fascinating, I think, to young people. Like this world that we live in. I mean, not everybody loves the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all that. I kind of got burned out on that a little while, a couple movies ago. But it's still this like seeing where it really happened, like in the 40s when it was coming together, is really fascinating. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing groups of young people at this as well. They will get to the depth of it, but maybe the surface of it is like this milieu of trying to make it in New York, and that Tin Pan Alley thing of like I gotta like come up with this idea and sell it, and I can make the money, and then maybe get my family out.
And as in the book, there's scenes with great humor too. I think it'll be really fun. I'm expecting people to have a good time in many ways and laugh a lot as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Can't thank you enough. Thank you.